on this episode of Edge of the Web.
That's the creative constraint. And I feel like all creativity, like we're going back to the 280 characters, I think 140 characters is a great creative constraint. And when you take away the creative constraints, you can sometimes get too bloated. And like if I had a wall-sized canvas to play with, the cartoon would not be as good as it would have to be by squeezing it into that small space.
Yeah.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Hear and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, alongside Tom Broadbeck, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
We're back. Hey, we're broadcasting from Edge Media Studios every week this time and this day, located in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. Every week we bring you the latest marketing trends as well as marketing influencers from around the planet. Can you believe that? Around the planet. Not just in our neck of the woods, everywhere. Check out all of our recent shows at the website, not the podcast, the website, edgeofthewebradio.com. We're actually powered by Site Strategics, your digital marketing pioneers, well-versed in the agile marketing strategy as well as execution. You got to have both. If you want to learn more about what agile marketing is, it's results-based marketing, and you can check that out over at sitestrategics.com, S-I-T-E strategics.com. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks. I'm the CEO of Site Strategics as well as Edge Media Studios. The reason why we do this show is to bring a level of education, but also showcase professionals in the digital marketing space that are cutting it up and making some fantastic inroads into authentic, real marketing. There's no cheats, there's no games, there's no black hat stuff here. So we've been doing this for five and a half years, and we keep on going strong. We really appreciate all the listeners' participation as well as some fantastic interviews we've had over the years. To my left is Thomas Broadbeck, Director of Digital Media.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. Thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
You are?
I'm always glad to be here, Aaron. Especially when I eat a cupcake right before the show. It's always a good thing.
Dude, the cupcakes in this office were unreal.
They were. Unfortunately, nobody told me about them yesterday when they were in the office. I had to get them today.
You need to publicly shame the crew of Site Strategics right now because they didn't. They didn't tell you that. And it was a full fleet. It was a Gigi's?
It was Gigi's Cupcakes. Great cupcakes. I could have had a cupcake yesterday and today, so I guess I'm a little on edge.
You are on
I am on the edge. I'm on the edge. Squared.
Twice. So, to all the Site Strategics employees, shame on you. You know better than that, and you also know not to give it to me. But
that's why I was going to eat his.
Nice. It's monster. I mean, the icing's like that thick. It's huge, bigger than a bloody cupcake. Let's introduce our guest who's watching from afar our machinations of pastry. It's Tom Fishburn. He's the marketoonist. He's also the author of the book, Your Ad Ignored Here, Cartoons from 15 Years of Marketing, Business, and Doodling in Meetings. How you doing, Tom?
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me on. A lot of fun.
You're more than welcome. More than welcome. Sorry about the way we backed into this thing with the cupcakes and all.
I'm feeling a bit of cupcake envy, I have to say. The longer you
as well, you should. I mean, literally, that stuff. It was a mountain of icing. And I reflected on honestly what my kids do. Literally, my kids will just scoop that icing up and leave the cake. Right? What is that? That's purist. That's purist mentality right there. So anyway, that I was triggered by that today. So we are certainly wanting to promote what we're doing on Facebook Live. So to everybody who's on our stream, certainly ask Tom questions as we go through the interview, and feel free to give us a shout. We are also giving away something, right, Tom?
We have a giveaway planned, and you'll have to wait till the end of the show to find out how to enter. But we promise it'll be good.
You promise?
I promise.
Better than a cupcake.
Yes.
You hear that, Tom? The bar has been raised, man. Check out all of our podcasts in your favorite podcast platform. We have iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Acast, and coming soon, Spotify. So thanks for everybody who listens on the different platforms. And if we're not where you would like us to be, just give us a shout. We'll get our feed over to you, right?
That's right. We're excited about Spotify. We got an email. It's like, Spotify's chosen you to be on their podcast. We're like, yeah.
Yeah, they kind of tapped us.
Yeah, they did.
It's pretty cool.
Just
And hey, by the way, we just got.
We did. We didn't mention that off the top, but yeah.
We just got a what's the official term for it?
It's from the Native Advertising Institute. We won best use of a podcast for the Native Advertising Awards, and they were announced this morning in Berlin at their Native Advertising Institute conference. So
sweet. Thank you very much for that, and we certainly appreciate the recognition. So, before anything else, let's take you through some latest digital marketing news.
I was very excited to start my reportings.
This week's trending topics.
All right, jumping into it from The Verge, Twitter is rolling out 280 character tweets around the world. This comes from Casey Newton. So, Tom, is it true? Is it actually happening?
Unfortunately, it is true. The test is over, and Twitter decided it was a good thing, and they're rolling out the 280. They're doubling it. They're doubling the character limit from the 140 to the 280, and they just said, screw it. Yep. Let's just double everything and take up everybody's screens. Hey, let's get the ability to add tweet signatures. Let's just go ahead like an email signature. Let's just have a tweet signature on. No, I'm joking about that. But there's room now, so you can do what you want and make your tweets. I saw so many of them yesterday. Somebody was making a tweet every line, or having one character per line and making it 3 scrolls to scroll through my Twitter feed.
Oh my gosh! A local radio personality actually called it the new Coke. And what's interesting enough is that there's going to be a reflex, and they're going to go back down to 140.
I just don't know why they had to double it.
I don't know.
Like, if you want to make it a little bit longer, that's fine. But like 200, make it 200.
I'll tell you why they did it.
Okay,
is because literally Trump's doing part 1, part 2, part 3 tweets.
Most people are.
They wanted to fence him in,
but
just
still,
one giant tweet.
Even that, they're saying it. I think that's more readable. Like, who's going to read a big block? There's a reason why newspapers put a one sentence as a paragraph, because nobody wants to read a big block of text. It's boring, and nobody wants to read that.
That's right.
So that's what's happening now on your Twitter feed.
So there it is, Tom. You can.
I did find this interesting. It says
Tom.
Sorry, Tom. It said that the Chinese, the Japanese, and Korean language Twitters will still be the 140 character limit, because it doesn't take as much characters to say whatever they say.
Oh, Well, we'll double down on that. We'll actually throw all of our poop emojis in there in a 280 character broadcast.
Some people are doing that.
They are doing that. Tom,
sorry, Tom. I knew this would be tough.
We're gonna be don't cross the streams here. Tom, Fishburne, how are we doing?
Which is Tom A and which is Tom B?
We're gonna give you.
I am literally Tom B. So
yeah, you are Tom B.
So
with Mr. Broadbeck. So you're not Tom F. You're Tom A. Okay. So Twitter, the 280. What do you think about that?
I think I don't think it's going to make it twice as good. I think I don't know. I can understand the impulse if things aren't working to try new things, but I think you're not going to be able to out Facebook. You have to stick at what you're good at. And I think it's going to be end up more on the individual on how they use it. And hopefully people will feel a little bit of constraint. I imagine people who drop those big tweet bombs will get some sort of negative response, and there might be some self-policing. I can only hope so.
Yeah. It's a bad idea. It honestly kind of removes what Twitter was all about. Brevity. Get it out there quick, and be concise. And it really forced people to craft witty messages. And now... Yeah. I mean, it's not microblogging anymore. It's paragraph blogging.
So
Yeah.
here's some stats from Twitter. Said only 5% of the tweets that were sent during their test period actually exceeded the 140 limit, and only 2% exceeded 190 characters, according to Twitter, during their recent test that they did. So that's why they rolled it out.
Wow.
I think that's going to be a scale up. I think that's a sign of it being early days, but we're going to see it turn into little micro, tones.
I just want to
It's a
see.
shame. I think it's a classic case of brands that start out doing one thing well, and then they kind of spend out and I'm not really standing much for anything.
No, I'd agree with that.
And then they also changed. I don't know if you noticed it too, Aaron. They used to have the Twitter or the character count. They used to have a counter that told you had up to your 140. Now there's a circle that loads, and it doesn't tell you how many characters you have left. You have to judge based on how much closer you are to the 12 o'clock of the circle before you're out of characters.
That is wrong.
It's like how usable is that?
It kind of gamifies you to fill it up. You want to get to the end of the circle.
That's true.
Yeah, that's it. From TechCrunch, from Sarah Perez, Facebook introduces a messenger plugin for business websites. Okay, I'm interested here. Facebook Messenger is actually coming to businesses' own websites. The social network announced today the launch of the new customer chat plugin into closed beta, which will allow customers to talk directly with businesses on their websites using Messenger and continue those conversations across the web, mobile, and tablet devices. That's actually a useful thing. While there are actually plenty of customer support and chat plugins for websites on the market, Facebook's advantage is its platform and reach. So, as long as they stay out of advertising inside that chat space.
Yeah.
I mean, that would just blow chunks.
Yeah, a little bit further down here, Aaron, it says the chat plugin may not be useful for some sites that do troubleshooting and tech support through their chat systems, as it doesn't connect with other backend support systems, like when a chat session is the starting point for directing customers to the right support agent, for example. It also lacks some of the more robust analytical tools the professional systems offer, which can easily be addressed with an acquisition, but
That's funny.
But this is I think it's a pretty cool step forward. If you can be able to connect with people off your website, through your website.
That's cross-platform. It's cross-device, and that's one of the first things that I noticed here is that literally now you have engagement in all these different spaces because that Facebook app and desktop, you're logged in wherever you are.
Yep.
So you can have ongoing communications and in customer support as well.
Yep.
Very cool, very cool. From Search Engine Land, from Greg. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. What do you think about Tom A? What do you think about that?
I agree. The cross-platform thing is the thing I find perhaps the most interesting. That you can have people go from device to device and know who they are. That's been the holy grail that marketers have been kind of looking for. Like, what's the equivalent of the cookie that can work across all these different devices? And there have been a lot of funny workarounds that companies have been experimenting with. But Facebook is in a great place with this because people tend to have Facebook on all of their devices, and if it knows who you are and can keep that consistent, that's a pretty powerful thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, plus, nothing's more annoying than accidentally closing your chat window after you've been on hold for chat for 30 minutes. So I think this could be a way to alleviate that.
Very good. Very good. All right. Lastly on the deck here from Search Engine Land, from Greg Sterling, Yelp increasingly cracking down on review solicitation across the internet. Take us down that story, Tom.
So apparently there's a company, it turns out there's an addendum to the end of the article here, but Nice Job, a reputation management company, got an email from Yelp telling Nice Job to stop requesting people to leave reviews on Yelp for their customers.
Huh. Why would they do that?
Apparently it's against Yelp's, they have a policy that says don't ask for reviews. And so it literally says in Yelp's term agreement, says don't ask customers, mailing list subscribers, friends, family, or anyone else to review your business. Don't ask your staff to compete to collect reviews. Don't run surveys to ask for reviews from customers reporting positive experiences, and don't ever offer freebies, discounts, or payment in exchange for reviews. That's part of their terms of service, apparently.
Yep.
And so this is violation of the terms of service, and so they send an email out to Nice Job to tell them to stop asking for reviews.
Well, yeah. Honestly, they weren't doing it. They were doing it for their clients.
But still, they're saying You should never ask for a review on Yelp, which kind of defeats the purpose.
It really,
they want it to be organic. I get it, but sometimes you gotta give them a little nudge, nudge, wink, wink to get the review done.
Did you just pull up Monty Python? He did. Did you hear that? I had no idea that was inside of you. A Monty Python reference.
What happens when you eat a cupcake before the show?
Channeling is into Monty Python. Tom, what do you think about the Yelp cease and desist there?
It seems a little overboard. I feel like I can understand the arms race that sort of exists out there, where every business feels compelled to constantly solicit reviews.
Right.
And when other people are doing it, you feel like you have to. I mean, it has been. Sometimes it gets a little ridiculous how the pressure to kind of leave a review. But I think this sort of all or nothing line is an interesting one. It's kind of surprising, and I also think it has the potential to have a little bit of a backlash. The best cease and desist letter I saw recently was when the show Stranger Things from Netflix sent a cease and desist to some fans who decided to set up a bar inspired by Stranger Things. They did it as a pop-up, and Netflix had to send them a cease and desist. But they did it as if it was written from some of the characters in the show. Huh. I had to put my walkie-talkie down. And I'm sure you're creative people, so you can understand. We want to have some influence on how people experience our worlds. It was really, they needed to send something.
Yeah.
But they did it in such a way that was extending and amplifying the brand as opposed to bringing in the legal police. And I feel like more companies can learn from that. Yelp in particular, which is a company all about the voice of the people. I think even the cease and desist needs to feel like it's coming from one of us and not from the department.
No, I mean, you can certainly, you can, if they did it the right way, then people would understand that you're kind of hurting the entire system by not going organic and not allowing it just to ebb and flow based on your business and performance, right? If you're constantly pursuing and constantly soliciting reviews, you're affecting the ecosystem. Yeah. You are, I mean, you're kind of chumming the waters as opposed to, okay, here's my review places, right? Link them down at the bottom of the site, and that's about the best you could do to point people if they want to leave a review. You know, don't pressure, don't pay. Yeah. Absolutely, don't pay for.
But,
yeah, it is.
But yeah, especially, you have, I mean, I work in a restaurant before, and you have people come in all the time, and you know they're dedicated fans of yours, and sure, they have a Yelp subscription or whatever account. And it's like, hey, we know you come in all the time. Can you just leave us a review on Yelp? You know, like I don't see what's the harm in that.
It's an infraction, Tom.
I know. Don't ask. Don't ask, don't tell, right?
All right. But we will solicit you, our users, to jump into our newsletter. Sign up for our newsletter today. You can absolutely jump on board, and we will solicit this right now. We want you to be part of our newsletter engagement weekly. So if you text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk, you can see it right there at the bottom of the screen. You can actually start joining our newsletter that you get every week for free, and it's beautiful. It's nuggets of gold. It's awareness of who we talked to, what we talked about, the news of the week, as well as some neat tips. So, I mean, we certainly recommend you jumping on board free of charge. We won't use our email for anything else except delivering this goodness. So you can certainly go to Edge of the Web Radio to check it out. But again, go to text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk, and drop in right there, right?
Yep.
There's a big old fat solicitation right there.
Yep, and if we had Yelp page, I'd ask you to leave us a review on Yelp, but we don't have a Yelp page for Edge of the Web.
Dude, man, seriously, you got to check with me before you do that.
Sorry, Yelp.
All right, so follow all our featured trending topics over at edgeofthewebradio.com. So let's do some deep diving with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Tom Fishburn, author of the book Your Ad Ignored Here.
How about that? You're the deep voice guy, Tom.
I've always wanted the deep voice guy.
We knew it, and we wanted to make it happen for you. So we're going to send it over for your ringtone, for your wife, or what have you, and we should really be cutting these things up. It's probably going to be breaking my license agreement.
Every time I make an entrance into a room, I need that.
There you go. A little Bluetooth speaker. So to our audience, let me introduce Tom Fishburn the right way. He started cartooning while he was a student at Harvard Business School, and while he held various marketing roles at General Mills, Nestle, Method, and Hotel Tonight. Tom actually parodied the world of marketing in a weekly cartoon. So from an email to 35 coworkers in 2002, his cartoons have grown by word of mouth to reach several 100,000 readers each and every week. His new book, Your Ad Ignored Here, collects nearly 200 of those hilarious depictions. There's one. There's the book right there. Depicting the marketing life on the 15th anniversary of the series. So congratulations to you, Tom.
Thank you so much. It's been a crazy journey. It's amazing to reflect that it's been that long, actually.
I want to know what's the one behind you?
It's a content marketing joke. Daddy, instead of a story, can you read me some branded content?
That's not creepy at all. Very cool. Well, Tom, why don't you give us your rendition of your backstory?
Yeah, it's good. It's kind of circuitous and a little bit serendipitous. So I've always wanted to be a cartoonist since I was a kid. I used to dream about being a cartoonist. I used to take silly putty and make cartoons out of transferring cartoons over to fresh sheets of paper and changing the dialogue to be about my brothers. And that was really what I loved. Far Side, Calvin and Hobbes, yep. Bloom County, all of my favorites. And then I kind of put it aside for a while and didn't really think about it. Thought it was just a kind of a childhood dream sort of thing. And then weirdly enough, I picked it back up at Harvard Business School, which isn't exactly a feeder school for cartoonists, but they had a student paper, and I had some friends who encouraged me to draw some cartoons about student life. I loved doing that, and I had a cartoon there for 2 years. And then when I graduated and found myself at General Mills, I found so many inside jokes about marketing and about kind of our day-to-day business life. I thought maybe there's something I could parody here in a cartoon. And that's when I drew a few samples. I emailed it out to a few friends. And I thought initially that it would literally just be about inside General Mills jokes. But I started to notice that people were signing up from all these different companies. And I realized that the same inside jokes everywhere. And I just kept going, one cartoon a week, really as a little bit of a hobby, a little bit of a stress relief, a little bit of therapy every week to kind of keep sane in marketing. And then it just followed along my career. And I was kind of doing really these two worlds. I had my marketing day job. I had cartooning nights and weekends. And then I finally had enough momentum going that my wife and I decided to start it as a full-time business 7 years ago and expanded into a marketing agency, a small marketing agency that specializes in cartoons. Mm-hmm. And so companies tell stories using cartoons, and now have some other cartoonists who work with us as part of the team. And I still do my weekly cartoon about marketing, but now I get to spend my days also thinking about cartoons as marketing. And it's been this evolution. Marketunist is sort of, I get to make up my own job title to put the two aspects of my life in that way together. That's been great.
That's an awesome pathway to doing what you love, and also putting a thumb in the eyes of all the marketers that are out there.
That's right, including myself. I try anything I make fun of tends to be something I'm grappling with myself. I mean, I never want to throw stones at
Absolutely.
Others. It's just usually my own reflection. I find that we're in an interesting stage in marketing where so much is changing, so much has changed over the last 15 years. And I think it's good to laugh at it, reflect on the journey. We're all figuring out all of this together. And the cartoons have given me a chance to have a little bit of a weekly reflection on what's going on and how I would think about that as a marketer. And then over time, I've expanded it with my website. I now write a blog article every week to go along with the cartoon to kind of highlight ways that companies are grappling with those challenges and approaching them in different ways. And it's been fun. I learn the most from the audience that I connect with every week.
It's also, I mean, not only therapeutic, I get that, but it's also a way to mull over the concept and poke a little fun of it, because we marketers take ourselves too damn seriously all the time. And it gives you a little bit of an oasis. Okay, take the pressure off and just have a look. So we want to have a look at a few cartoons, if we can bring them up on screen real quick. Sorry for our audio audience. But Tom, we're going to have you. Tom, Fishburne, we're going to have you give us a rendition of what in the world's going on here.
Yeah, so this one features a conference table, and around the table are different dogs kind of sitting in seats and looking at a projector screen. And one of them is saying, we need to stay focused on our marketing priorities and not get distracted by every shiny new, look, squirrel. And they all look out the window and there's a squirrel going by on a tree.
All right. I'm going to ask Tom B. why this particular cartoon was actually pulled up as...
I did not request any specific article or cartoons, but this was one of the ones that Tom said, and it fits Aaron S. Personalities perfectly.
So Tom, I have been accused for chasing a squirrel every once in a while. In fact, an ex-employee a long time ago literally had a picture of a cat with a tie. And the message there was, okay, today we're going to really work hard to chase that red dot, folks. So I think there's a conspiracy here. So no, you're
is that why that's an ex-employee?
Yeah, you better. That's funny. And yes, that's the case. All right, give me another cartoon, guys. So we have a Trojan horse here, and careful, that last content was full of marketing. Absolutely. Oh, what's this? Oh, okay. Walk me through this one, Tom.
Yeah, so this is a classic org chart kind of structure. At the top of it, it's Chief Digital Officer, and then his or her direct reports are VP of Hype, VP of Disruption, VP of Buzzwords, and then beneath that layer, it's Director of Strategery, Director of Ambiguity, Director of Shiny New Things, Director of Overpromise, and then finally at the bottom, it's Manager of Business Results.
Oh my God!
And that position is vacant.
Damn. Okay, and we've got 8 types of annoying ads. Pop up, haha, your screen is ours. Impossible to close. Good luck with a tiny, tiny pixel to actually close the X. Problems with incontinence. The autoplay button, probably terrible whenever you're in office and that starts rolling, right? The oversized ad content, the interstitial, and that's been banned. Mm-hmm. Pre-roll to watch that 8-second clip. Enjoy this 60-second ad. Clickbait, Elvis, Bigfoot, Miley Cyrus, love triangle. Say it ain't so. I click that. Retargeting, even though you already bought these weeks ago, please come back. And self-righteous, hey, why is everyone installing ad blockers? Because. Fantastic. Well, I mean, where do you get all your passion for your cartoons, man?
It's I mean, it really does go back to me being a kid and feeling like I just love the medium of cartoons. I love that you can take something complex and communicate it in such a simple way. It's like the simplest form of storytelling. And it's this act when I'm coming up with a cartoon idea of taking something complex and over time iterating on it till I get slowly, eventually, a distilled version of the idea. Mm-hmm. And it's fun. I do it like exercise every day. I block the first 2 hours of every morning to like work on cartoon ideas. And I find that even when I had a typical marketing day job where this was a nights and weekend hobby, like it was working through creating cartoons that gave me the creative energy to do the rest of my day job. So it starts with that. And now that I do it all the time, what it's done, the act of putting out cartoons, it opens up my eyes to kind of always look at the next thing to make fun of and parody. So I have a scrap of paper in my pocket at all times I'm working on ideas. And it kind of, the more I do that, the more I want to do that, the more I notice stuff. And it's just become a part of my life.
That's that's so refreshing to be able to have that space just to be creative and not have the entire day wash over you and moving and pulling you in all different directions.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, where did you learn to draw? Like, was that always just been something you've always done, or you take classes? I know in college, I'm not a drawer, but I took intro to drawing in college, and it changed the way I looked at everything. From just the way the lines are supposed to be on the page. I just remember him talking about the road, like drawing a road. Most people just draw a road; they draw it straight up and down, so take over like the top third of the page rather than drawing the lines to kind of go into the page. Yeah, the perspective. There you go. Thank you, Jim. But where did you learn to draw?
No official training really. I doodled all the time as a kid. It was super rough. And I think when you're a kid, you have a lower kind of internal critic bar, so that you just draw just because it's fun. My kids do that.
Yeah.
Just like there's not a self-awareness, but as they get older, they start to notice it. And my older daughter is now 14, and she's is much less likely to come into my studio and draw all over my whiteboard. And so for me, it was like that. I doodled all the time. In college, I took an art class, and I had a different experience than yours, in that particular professor was of the school of make you feel like you're not very good, and then you will come through it. And my reaction to that was just to stop taking the class. And so I never, that was the only time I took an art class in college. And then weirdly enough, in business school, when I started drawing cartoons again, I really like fell back in love with it. And I just wanted to learn more about the art. I imitated other cartoonists that I liked. I just surrounded myself with cartoons and experimented. And I ended up cross-registering for a couple classes at the design school. And I think I was the only one from the business school to do that. I walk across the Charles River and take live student drawing classes. And then the kind of little bit of a fire to keep experimenting, always be learning. And that's what I kind of challenge myself to do now, is to kind of always experiment with different ways to represent things visually. Lately, I've been getting into scenic design for theater environments, and that's been fun to experiment with.
Wow.
It's all trial and I find the best art lesson for me is just to roll up my sleeves and grab a drawing implement in my hand and just start trying to do it more than anything academic.
All right. Hey, that's a great story of. I mean, honestly, business should cross the line more and more into design, and in fact, graphic design. I mean, contemporary graphic design is insisting that the graphic designers take business and econ classes, because you got to understand that you're not going to design in a creative bubble. It has to be applicable to the goals of business in one way, shape, or form. Of course, that's not all the pathways for graphic, but I mean, graphic designers sometimes are getting out the door and they don't realize what they really have to move from a persuasion standpoint of in graphic design for business. Tom, do you remember your first cartoon?
Well, let me think. My parents occasionally dig up old drawings I've done and bring them to me. And recently they brought me so my parents were both doctors, and I realized as a kid that their medical prescription pads were excellent for making flip books. And so I would draw flip books on the backs of the prescription pads. And then because like medical prescription books are like numbered very carefully, they don't want somebody to abuse that. My parents had to like find them in my room and reclaim them and then use them for medical prescriptions. And my dad was telling me the story this week of writing a prescription to somebody and handing them the prescription across the table, and the patient looked at it and just started laughing because on the back of it was one of my drawings. That was my scatological period. So that I would say was probably my earliest cartoon. And my drawing syndicated all over the eastern part of Virginia.
So, I mean, it's a bit self-evident as you proceeded, as you went into the marketing industry, why you chose the marketing industry for your cartoons. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's blatantly right there in front of you, right?
But I also think it was very fortunate for me that I started drawing cartoons when I did, because the traditional, model of cartooning, newspapers and magazines, you kind of had to be applicable to a really wide audience. You have to be, the typical newspaper comic strip page has stuff on there for 8-year-olds and 90-year-olds. So you're as a cartoonist, you have to have something that's broadly entertaining to everybody. And that, I think that ends up creating a watered down sort of thing where you end up not being, you end up kind of putting your hands behind your back because you're not screamingly funny to any one group in particular. You don't want to alienate anyone. And the great thing about cartooning in the digital age is that you can create material for very niche audiences. And so I just, for me, I mean, it started drawing a cartoon for a student paper at Harvard Business School. It was for students who would get the same inside jokes as me. And then when I went to General Mills, it was sort of a continuation of that journey, and ended up being fortunate because nowadays marketers around the world can experience the same content at the same time. You don't have the same, barriers. And so I think that we're in a real golden age of niche content. And so that happened to be a good thing for me, working in that world, living in that world, drawing cartoons that my parents might not necessarily get. But if you're a marketer, you might get some of the inside jokes behind it.
Very good. Very good. So when it comes down to humor, what's the percentage role? Well, I mean, honestly, it's like kind of a silly question to ask here. Every one of these cartoons are humorous. I mean, let me ask you a different way. In marketing, like I said, marketers can take themselves very, very seriously, right? How much humor do you gotta kind of force yourself into? Because I mean, with all these advents, everybody believes that they're building the next great platform for broadcast, and everybody's top 10 here, everybody thinks they're a guru inside of marketing, right? Which is a nice big X on their face, but my gosh, can you piss people off or what? I mean,
I think that's the danger of taking ourselves too seriously. I think that's that disconnect, because the reality is we're all figuring it all out. Nobody knows everything. And those that are self-proclaimed gurus are often less, they may not even notice how that there's some, it may somewhat be a projection of trying to make it look like they know more than they do, or they may honestly believe it. But I find that humor is essential in the world that we're in right now, because if you think you know everything, you're going to make mistakes and be resistant to make changes because of it. And so I think that there's an important role of humor, both in how marketers talk amongst ourselves, to like in that evolution of, realizing that we're continually learning, have to experiment and try new stuff. But I also think that there's a role for humor in how we do marketing, to our customers, that sometimes we treat industries a little too seriously in how we talk to customers. And it's some of the most, I've had an opportunity through my agency work, particularly in business-to-business marketing, to try to find humor in areas where oftentimes you don't really think of a funny bone in that world. I do a lot of, with one of our longest running clients, been running with a weekly cartoon for over 8 years now, and it's all in the field of workforce management software. And within that world,
that's a niche.
HR departments and IT departments, and you can think you can get very serious, very in that kind of a world, but actually to bring some humor and levity into even that space ends up really working, because the people who work those jobs, they all have senses of humor, and they all find amongst themselves, they're all talking about the ridiculous things that are happening. And if you can tap into that, that's a great place for a brand to kind of exist. And so I'm a big believer in trying to bring humor, everywhere, because I think that by using humor, you can oftentimes say things that would be hard to say any other way. If you said some things with a straight face, about critiquing some marketing practice, people might take offense. But if you say it with a laugh and with a cartoon and a sense of humor around it, you can it's disarming. It allows you to communicate some hard truths sometimes in a way that everyone ends up having fun with, which I think is great. I'm just coming from that background.
No, that's absolutely the case. And if you do it right, your cartoons can absolutely be used as part of the context in those industries. I bet they I'm sure they use your cartoons inside the marketing discussion groups, going, okay, guys, see this? Right?
I wanted to ask about some other industries. You mentioned the HR industry. What are there some other industries that you have found as people come to you for client work that have been surprisingly humorous?
Yeah, there are amazing niches I never even knew existed until people contacted me. One of the earliest clients we started working with was in the field of what they call Ediscovery. So Ediscovery is basically when large companies sue each other, they have to exchange lots of documents. And in the olden days, they would literally rent U-Haul trucks and take over copies of every single file on record.
Oh, wow.
And then, of course, as that went digital, it's all they're stored in all sorts of different things. And that's a particularly funny world, as it turns out, because you have lawyers who are not the most technical savvy industry in the world, having to request in very specific technical terms databases and all sorts of storage of different ways that companies talk amongst themselves. And so that ended up really creating a tremendous amount of humor in how lawyers are figuring out technology and how they have to suddenly coordinate with the IT groups within their own companies. So that led to a lot of humor. And we created a weekly series for about 5 years there, which was a great amount of fun. I had the chance to go to their big convention every year is called Legal Tech. And at this booth, I got to meet the real life people who are grappling with this. And we had a cartoon character to represent this poor IT person who's being besieged by all these legal requests. And a few people came up to me and they were like, "This is me. This is exactly me in this world." And that's my favorite place to get to, is when the cartoons, in a way, make heroes out of the audiences that they're trying to reach, and representing, the pain points and challenges that they're trying to go through to get to the other side. So that's, an example. I never even knew Ediscovery existed, and suddenly I find myself at a convention hall with several thousand people exactly in that niche. They had the convention in New York, and they actually put one of those cartoons on a billboard out in Times Square during that week.
Oh, that's awesome!
Which was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Wow. Well, let's have a look at a few more cartoons, and again, we'll try to describe this to our audio audience as well. Pull one up here, Jim. All right. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, so this is what I did, the 7 deadly sins of social media marketing. And so lust, let's pay for followers to pretend to like our brand. Sloth, we can treat all social networks the same. Gluttony, we'll stuff everyone's feeds with spam. Pride, we are awesome. Please retweet. Greed, and this is a sponsored post. We are awesome as sale. Envy, let's hijack whatever is trending. #sale, #Clooney.
Oh, wow.
And then wrath, why is no one engaging? Let's shout louder. And they have a megaphone.
That is too damn funny. Sorry.
I love this one.
All right.
A recent one, a Halloween one. Had some trick-or-treaters, and then one kid is dressed up literally as a banner ad. I shouldn't have dressed up as a banner ad. They ignore me at 99.94% of the houses. And he's got an empty bag. And then a bunch of other kids are saying, "Did you hear something?"
Oh, that's funny.
And I thought Aaron would relate to this one.
Oh, wow, look at this.
Here's someone holding their smart device, looking at their calendar, and it has a series of meetings for the day. Whether to call a meeting to plan a meeting to get stakeholder buy-in before the meeting, meeting after the meeting after the meeting after the meeting.
Oh my gosh.
And then finally, meeting to plan the next meeting.
That honestly, that is my schedule. Wow. Oh, here's one right here. You're in cubicles, and one guy's saying to the other guy, I think my Nest smoke alarm's going off. Google AdWords just pitched to me a fire extinguisher and an offer for temporary housing.
Great.
Excellent. Well, we want to ask you a few more questions here. How do you choose your subject matter or topic of your cartoons, whether for you or your clients? I mean, you can't swing a dead cat and not hit a joke for marketing, right? But how do you choose the ones that you go with?
I find it helps to have a lot of things going at once. So I'll usually I think of it like a Wikipedia stub for a potential cartoon idea. There's something out there. I'm not quite sure what it is yet, but there's something there. And I kind of draw on a little sheet of paper what that Wikipedia stub of an idea is. And then I have a whole basic, for every project, I have a folder full of these stubs. And then when I sit down to create, I kind of rifle through them and iterate and see what comes up over time. And some ideas may stay stubs for 6 months. And then others, I finally get to a place where they're finally a good cartoon idea and it's time to run with it. I end up not being sometimes I'm topical with ideas, like the trick or treaters, but very often it tends to be something that I've been ruminating with for a while, and I just want to find the right situation to represent whatever it is. And it's usually a feel before I get to that there's an actual idea here. There's a little bit of intuition that goes into it. There's something here. I can sense people are talking about this. I can sense this as a frustration or a pain point. I'm not quite sure how to represent it. And then eventually the cartoon idea kind of comes up. And I find that works a little bit better than being too programmatic in terms of a calendar fashion of saying, okay, and 3 months from now on the third week, I want to talk about, data-driven marketing. It's better. I find it's better for me to be a little bit open with it.
Yep.
It's a cartooning process. And I feel like a lot of creative people, a lot of creative agencies have to juggle with this tension between wanting to be creative and then wanting to be analytical. And I find that it for me, it is ultimately both, but I have to create space where I can be creative without being too critical. And then other space where I'm vetting ideas, and then I can put my analytical hat on and think, oh, this will respond well if I frame it in this kind of a way. So it's a little bit of trying to find the right times of my day to wear all those different hats.
Well, okay. Well, let me ask you this. Do you sometimes time your cartoons with some of the conferences that are going around the country? And again, there's so many, but the big ones, you can certainly chum the waters with, that some topics that are going to be covered there, AMP, and you could certainly throw in some topical references there.
I do sometimes. I find what's been interesting learning about my audience is that it's such an international audience. And in the early days, I would be very American-centric because that's where I was. And now I often have a filter of, okay, yes, this thing is happening. Even something like South by Southwest, I think there's broad awareness, but I still want to make sure that you don't have to have been to South by Southwest to necessarily get the joke. Like, I'll refer to it, but I want to have a message or a takeaway that can be more broadly applicable.
Mm-hmm.
So I've done a few South by Southwest ones, for instance, but it's often been about a little bit of, I think, what South by Southwest can sometimes represent, where you can occasionally get marketers getting so excited about that shiny new thing.
Right.
Look, squirrel. That you forget about, like, how am I going to deploy this shiny new thing?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'll use the South by Southwest gag in a way to still be something that could be funny for someone who doesn't really know that particular conference, but could definitely understand a city full of marketers all getting excited about wearing VR glasses while flying a drone, while doing whatever, using 3D printing all at the same time. That kind of.
No, I get that.
But it's funny. Sometimes I saw the one that we showed earlier with the Nest device and the Internet of Things. It just so happened that I drew that cartoon right before the Davos World Economic Summit, and somebody grabbed that cartoon performed well. People really responded to it, and somebody put it on the main stage at the World Economic Summit, and that was pretty cool. I couldn't plan that. It just so happened that it was at a time when people were starting to talk about it. It happened right after Google acquired Nest, and everybody was talking about the ramifications of that. And so when I do hit something that's topical,
mm-hmm.
It's usually accidental, but it can often be great when it happens.
I think he's obfuscating. I think he's in the space where he's watching everything and he's just like throwing those bombs.
I have a feeling
there.
a Twitter 280 character count one is coming soon.
It could very well be coming. Usually, if I try to be too contrived and orchestrated about it, they end up not working. Like, that's the first thing. Like, whenever I try to plan it,
that's when you're doing something well. Is that it organically finds an audience as opposed to trying to force something.
Yeah, I think probably the toughest part for you is trying to fit it all into just one panel. Is that I assuming that's the toughest? Just trying
that's the creative constraint. And I feel like all creativity, like we're going back to the 280 characters, I think 1140 characers is a great creative constraint. Mm-hmm. And when you take away the creative constraints, you can sometimes get too bloated. And like if I had a wall-sized canvas to play with, the cartoon would not be as good as it would have to be by squeezing it into that small space. Yeah. It's one of the things I love about single-panel cartoons and the New Yorker, for instance, is that it's a mechanism to try to get something that's communicated in that small space. And usually when I'm working with clients, that's the trickiest part, is trying to say, we don't have to say everything in this one image. Let's boil it down to the simplest version of whatever we're trying to communicate, and leave it at that. And there's more that we're going to want to say, but let's create other cartoons to convey all those other things. If you try to jam in too much, oftentimes you end up losing the gist. You get creativity by committee, and you lose the essence of what you're trying to say.
Wow, isn't that emblematic of actually doing good marketing?
Yeah.
Don't jam so much in there. Be brief, be authentic, be real. Sorry, waxing poetically there.
It's true. I agree. I totally agree.
So we have one more cartoon before something that we want to engage with our audience. So one more cartoon. Let's pull it up on the screen. Nope, that was not the one. That's the.
We already showed all of them, Larry.
Oh, we did. Oh, my bad. All right.
You gave it away.
Oh, I did, didn't I? Okay, so for our audience, our audio audience and our Facebook audience, Tom, we're actually Tom's. How about that? We're actually wanting to do something. We've got a giveaway here, and we wanted to give away one of the books. Right there's the book right there.
Yeah.
Very good. You're at Ignored here, and what we're going to do is, Tom, give us the challenge for our audience.
So, Jim, go ahead and throw that back up. But Tom's given us a blank panel, and for us, so for our audio listeners, it looks like it's at a conference room setting, and the host of the meeting is holding a chainsaw. Not a chainsaw bayonet, by the way. It's just a chainsaw, and yeah, so we're doing a caption contest, and so if you go to edgeofthewebradio.com/giveaways and give us your best caption, and we'll send them over to Tom, and we'll let him choose his favorite, and he will send them a free copy of the book. We're going to end the contest next Friday. I think that is the 17th. We'll end it at noon, so we'll give people who are watching live a week, and they'll give us release the podcast on Tuesdays, and so I'll give them 3 or 4 days to get us their captions. And so edgeofthewebradio.com/giveaways. You got till noon on the 17th to give us your best caption for a boardroom setting with the leader of the meeting holding a chainsaw. So I'm excited to see what people come up with.
Absolutely.
Maybe Aaron and I will have to come up with our own for examples.
Absolutely.
But,
no, it's fun. It's great. And you sure they only need they just need a week to do this? I mean, they should be able to get this done pretty quick, right?
I'd like to give the audio. Not everybody listens to it on that first day of the show comes out, so we'll give them a couple days.
All right.
And then on Friday, be a good end of the week recap before the week after Thanksgiving.
I know.
So
I dig it. I dig it. So. We're giving away Tom's book. Just go ahead and caption this over at the edgeofthewebradio.com/giveaways. And thank you so much for that generous contribution, Tom. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. That was great. And I look forward to seeing what people come back with. It's one of the things I love about cartoons too, is that it's kind of participatory. People see what they want to see in an image, and a caption like that, you can have, a room full of people and everybody sees something a little bit different.
Absolutely. We're gonna have this experiment done in the office during our scrum on Mondays. So to wrap up, Tom, can I ask what bugs you about your industry right now?
I think, we touched on a little bit about this shiny new things concept. I feel like we're in this awkward adolescent stage of digital marketing where all these tools are suddenly available. We get really excited about them, but we haven't quite found the right way to deploy all of those tools. And so sometimes we get so focused on technology, we forget that, technology can't save a boring idea. And so I think that there's an opportunity for marketers just to make sure that not to get so excited about something that you say, we need a Snapchat strategy, but instead we get excited about something and say, how could this help extend the actual marketing ideas that we have?
Right. No, I would highly agree with that. Mark, you actually wrote in your pre-show interview survey there that Mark Pritchard at P&G calls this the content crap trap. Too much emphasis on quantity and not enough on quality. If we have not heard this once, we've heard it 1,000 times.
I've never heard it called the content crap trap, though. I like that.
And it's a pretty big deal coming from the CMO of one of the, if not the world's biggest advertiser. Is kind of interesting to think about it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, that's what it gets down to. There's just so much. There's such a glut, and it gets back to, I mean, honestly, I'll use your cartoon as a symbol of that, is that brevity is the key. Thinking about a message and making sure that it's quirky, it can grab a hold of somebody. It's not clickbait. You know, you're not shoving a heck of a lot of call to actions in front. It stands alone, right? So I dig it. I dig it. So conversely, what actually excites you about your industry right now?
I feel like we're in a great time of experimentation and creativity. You know, going back with this awkward adolescence period, I think the flip side of that is we get to figure out what to do with all of this stuff. We've never in history had more tools and technology and platforms to engage our audiences in deeper, more meaningful ways than ever before. And it's all available to us. And I think that the next few years is going to be really interesting to watch, to see how marketers take advantage of all of that. There's going to be a lot of, friction and tension, because I think some of the use cases, sometimes you give the tools out there and it can be taken in directions that like my cartoon earlier, can ultimately be annoying to the end audience that we're trying to reach. And so we have to keep that in mind and think about, ultimately, why do you exist as a brand? What are you trying to do as a marketer? How can you use all of this technology to really make magical things happen, but make sure that it's done in such a way that actually is ultimately better for the audience that you're trying to reach. So I get excited about the creativity most of all.
Absolutely. Well said. We've got a fun fact for our audience.
This is one heck of a fun fact.
Oh my gosh. All right. So, you know what? Tom, I'm gonna let you say it, because my jaw dropped whenever I heard this. So go ahead.
So when everything was coming out a few years ago with Edward Snowden releasing all of those documents on WikiLeaks, I started to get these strange emails from people who were following that closely, and people I didn't know, but letting me know that my cartoons were used in top secret NSA presentations. And while I'm always reluctant to click on any link in an email because it could be a phishing scam, I kind of went on my own to WikiLeaks just to poke into one that they suggested I look at, and sure enough, the NSA found something in a couple of my cartoons that were worth including in an NSA presentation. From what I can tell, it not be a licensing fee for that.
Wow.
and I certainly didn't have the NSA in mind when I was drawing those cartoons, but it just goes to show you never know where your content is going to end up.
No.
And connecting with what we said earlier about people seeing whatever they want to see in a cartoon image, it's interesting to see that there was something that they wanted to communicate within those top secret NSA meetings.
Yeah, who knew that the NSA had a sense of humor?
Yeah, right.
Was it the icebreaker, or what did it, when you clicked on the link, what did it show? Did it just show your cartoon, or was it like?
Yeah, it was a cartoon, and it was one of the ones that they used had to do with Jeffrey Moore's Crossing the Chasm model, the technology adoption, how new technologies go from early adopters, on the way through to laggards, and there's this moment before it becomes mainstream, and that connected to something the NSA was talking about with the adoption of technology on a broader sense. So that's the cartoon they chose to represent that, which is really funny. If I remember correctly, there was an Ashton Kutcher reference in that cartoon, which I can only imagine how that was taken in a very serious conference room somewhere deep in the bowels of this government meeting.
What the hell? Wow. Well, we certainly thank you for representing marketing and technology in the NSA. We need more good humor in that space. Hey,
I should send them a couple of my books.
I'm thinking so. I don't know. You maybe get flagged somewhere.
Yeah.
Hey, we certainly want to lift up your book, Your Ad Ignored Here, cartoons from 15 years of marketing, business, and doodling and meetings. It's a collection of 200 of your favorite cartoons. Where can they find that book?
So Amazon, in pretty much every country in the world where Amazon operates. On my website, you'll see more description about the book and a sample of cartoons, what a few people have said about it. But Amazon, Barnes & Noble, most places online are carrying the book, print edition, Kindle edition, ebook edition. And it's been great to hear the response from what people have come back to me with. A lot of people have put references in the Amazon reviews actually about some of their their favorite cartoons and where they came across it and where they were in their marketing lives and world. And it's been neat to hear back from people that, some of these cartoons have been tacked up to their cubicle walls or shared in their office meetings and whatnot. And so as it's been, one of the blurbs is from Ann Handley on the book, who wrote the foreword and mentioned that, if marketing kept a diary, this would be it. And it's certainly been my personal diary, but it's been fun to see how people have responded to it in terms of their own marketing journeys too.
That is awesome. That is awesome. Well, we want to give all of our audience the chance to check you out. We've already rotated the URLs on the screen, but we'll read them out real quick. On Facebook, you can track Tom down at facebook.com/marketunist. On LinkedIn, you can find him at Tom Fishburn. Instagram, Tom Fishburn with an E, by the way, as well as a Twitter handle, Tom Fishburn with an E as well. So we're giving a free copy of the book to our audience. Your ad ignored here. Just go over to Edge of the Web Radio /giveaways and fill out the form and submit your caption for the greater good. I mean, come on. You have until Friday, November 17th at noon Eastern time to enter. So, hey, Tom, thank you so much for the time. I mean, congrats on the book. We're certainly going to get a copy in here for our teams to chew on, because we've already gotten lots of chuckles. But we're going to deep dive into that. Thanks so much for your time today. Any final words for aspiring artists such as yourself?
Everyone told me don't quit your day job, and I actually found out that's not bad advice. It helped me having a day job for my early material and to do it basically, for fun for a long time before I was ready to make the jump.
Yeah, you gotta do recon and get all that before you can ever make fun of them, right?
That's right, exactly right.
All right, well, Tom Fishburne, thank you so much for being on the show today. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all the Edge of the Web listeners and Facebook Live audience. We certainly appreciate everybody's contribution into the show on a regular basis. Be sure to check out all the must-see videos and insider information over at edgeofthewebradio.com. And who do we have on next week, Tom?
We have the coolest cool Ross Simmons on the show.
The coolest cool.
That's right.
As opposed to anything else but the coolest cool.
No,
Ross Simmons.
He's cooler than cool.
He is cooler. All right, so Ross Simmons is coming on the Edge next week. Be sure to stay tuned. Thanks so much for everybody at Site Strategics for sponsoring and producing the show, and we will see you next week. Do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. Bye-bye.